America has spent about $10 billion to rebuild the World War II Pacific airfields as it prepares for China's escalating plans. Is something big about to unfold? Unless you have no knowledge about World War II, you must have definitely heard about the archipelagos in the Pacific. The island played a pivotal, war-ending role in the Pacific theater. For the first half of the war, these islands served as Imperial Japan's outer defensive shield. By 1944, they became the ultimate launchpad for the United States to strike the Japanese mainland and bring the war to a close. Every one of these islands was either a Japanese installation or an American one. And in the 1950s, military strategists finally gave it a name, calling these islands the Second Island Chain. The Second Island Chain includes Guam, whose full sovereign control is held by the U.S. It is a major unincorporated U.S. territory and a valuable resource as it serves as the primary military hub for the entire region, housing the Andersen Air Force Base and Naval Base of Guam. The second island are the North Mariana Islands, which is a United States Commonwealth, specifically islands of Tinian and Saipan. These islands are the main focus of our topic today, as the U.S. military is currently pouring billions into reviving World War II airfields here. The other islands that the second island chain includes are the sovereign allied nations like Bonin and the independent sovereign countries like Palau and the Federated States of Micronesia, which includes Yap. Now that we have an idea what the second island chain is, let's get back to our main focus for today, the reconstruction of Tinian and Saipan, specifically the Air Force Base as well as the Naval Base. Let's first know about the recent activities that have been surrounding the islands to get a hint at what the United States is actually planning. All the recent articles involving the islands consist of the same name, China. Now, even though America doesn't have direct control over the second island chain, it effectively exercises full military dominance on the islands, and China seems to be aiming for this power. It was not an abrupt attack or anything alike that led us to this conclusion. Rather, China has always been trying to blunt American maritime power in the Pacific. In November 2025, just a couple months ago, China introduced something in alignment with its goal to gain dominance over the island. This had given its plans a major boost. It was the launch of its third and most advanced aircraft carrier, the Fujian. The 80,000-ton supercarrier could accommodate about 60 aircrafts and was planned to be accompanied by as many as 10 warships. The launch of this aircraft carrier had dramatically narrowed the naval capability gap between the US and China. China's goal has always been to expand from a coastal navy to a Pacific power, and now, with this major boost, it was bound to come through. China was already a significant adversary. The addition of this carrier just contributed a little to that. Now, although China has the world's largest navy by number of ships, biggest arsenal of ground, launched ballistic and cruise missiles, and also the largest active military service with a standing army of 2 million soldiers, it still lags behind in aircraft carrier technology when compared with the United States. This launch by China was preparation for something much larger. Since then, a wave of new Chinese actions has flooded the headlines, signaling that the grand plan they were preparing for is now in motion. Now, America had other issues within its own country, and as well as with other countries. But the Indo-Pacific region wasn't really one of them, as they were sure no one would dare to challenge them there, which is exactly why it was such a shock when China began the escalation of its plans regarding the Indo-Pacific. In the Northern Pacific, Chinese vessels would frequently test maritime claims by South Korea and Japan, while to the south, Beijing would carry out frequent large-scale military exercises around Taiwan. which it says will one day be reunited with mainland China. They are intent on getting unrestricted access to the Pacific and don't plan to back out anytime soon. In response, the US has started returning the airfields of the second island chains to operation status to prepare for further escalation. These airstrips that were constructed on remote islands in the Pacific to target Japan in the closing stages of World War II are quietly being repaired and restored as the US builds up its defensive posture in preparation for something big. The details of the work that is taking place at the wartime bases on Tinian and Peleliu are limited. Analysts believe that the intention is to provide the US Air Force with an alternative like the Andersen Air Force Base in northern Guam or Kadena Air Base on the Japanese island of Okinawa. This wasn't a sudden repair, although these days America seems to be preparing for the escalation just like China, which has been preparing to take over the islands. America has been preparing to maintaining its control for a while. Since 2023, US engineers have been relaying the 2,400-meter runways that were initially laid down 80 years ago at Tinian Island's North Field, from where the B-29 superfortress Enola Gay took off to drop the first atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima on the 6th of August, 1945. 3 days later, another B-29 bomber took off from the airfield, today part of the Northern Marianas Islands, to drop a second bomb on Nagasaki and force Japan's surrender. This exact facility, which used to be the busiest airbase in the world, was later abandoned after the war in 1947 and was reclaimed by nature, entirely filled with plants and trees growing from its ground. But in 2003, one of the runways was cleared for an exercise. And later on in 2023, the extensive work to reconstruct the base commenced. Engineers have also started working on Peleliu. One of the engineers are also on Peleliu, one of the most southerly islands in the Palau archipelago, and the site filled with remnants of fierce fighting during the war. This 1,800-meter runway was completed before the battle to take the island from the Japanese was over, and it supported US operations in the Pacific theater until the end of the war. The field served as a local airport for islanders, but it was only usable by light aircraft. But in 2024, US units had decided to clear the facility and make it ready for operations once again. In mid-June 2024, a KC-130 tanker aircraft was the first to land at the repaired field. The thing is, it's not a small thing to repair any military base. Also, keeping in mind the fact that the base is old, the repair would require many facilities, as they lack even the basic ones, which might include new runway surfaces, taxiing areas, and hard stands for aircraft to ensure they do not sink into the muddy ground on islands that are constantly humid and often battered by tropical storms. Access to power sources and water are other basic needs, while underground fuel tanks and hardened shelters for both aircraft, weapons, and other stores would also be desirable. Positions may also be constructed for radar and defensive weapon systems, as surveys were being undertaken for the sighting and operation of Patriot anti-missile systems. Neither radar nor weapons are likely to be in place at present, but the ground is being prepared for their arrival as well. All the cost regarding the repairs would amount to more than even $10 billion, and the US seems to be ready to pay the price rather than giving up the islands to China. The reconstruction of these facilities was a great strategy by the US military, as if a major conflict was to break out on the region, on the Korean Peninsula or over the Taiwan Strait, then Andersen would be an obvious target. So having a range of alternative facilities across the region is good strategy, and also in the event of an emergency in which the US needs to surge troops and materiel into a theater. These places are strategically located to allow them to do that quickly and effectively, giving them an upper hand. Recently, as preparation, China has decided to expand its ballistic missile arsenal, despite the fact that it already possesses one of the world's most rapidly expanding and technologically advanced ballistic missile arsenals. Prioritizing anti-access, area denial, A2, AD, hypersonic technologies, and a strengthened second strike nuclear deterrent, there's just no way the United States could stay still when China continues to upgrade its gear every other day. In the end, both the countries are comparable to each other and possess just as much strength as the other. While China is brawling a scheme, America isn't sitting still either. It's fixing the war remnants quietly and secretly to counter China's plans. Stay tuned for more updates on the situation. See you in the next video.